Welcome back, fight fans. We're back, and it's a pay-per-view this week. We're going to start off with UFC Vegas 57. Then we're going to be talking about, which was last week. Then we're going to be talking about The Ultimate Fighter, which was yesterday, episode 6. And then, of course, we're going to close it out with UFC 275. And my God, it's going to be a good one. So we'll open up, of course, with the prelims, work our way through the whole card for UFC Vegas 56, which I wrote down the wrong number here. So it opened up with Erin Blanchfield and JJ Aldrich. This was actually one of the ones that I had talked about last week. I mean, Blanchfield, the huge favorite, of course. And I was going for Blanchfield by finish. In this one, Aldrich was actually the one pressuring early, tried to pick Blanchfield apart at a distance. Of course, that made sense. She is the striker in this one. And even pushed her along the fence for a few seconds. Interestingly, though, JJ was the one who actually tried to take the fight to the ground first against the grappler Blanchfield. After a couple minutes, though, Erin got the fight into a clinch along the fence. Couldn't quite get it to the ground. And honestly, I was a little worried. And I think a lot of people were a little worried because we all knew that was definitely how she was going to win the fight. You got to grapple, get her to the ground, control there, maybe even get a submission. So a little worried early. After that, though, where are we here? Aldrich actually managed to drag Erin to the ground, but Blanchfield did get back up fairly quick. Trying to steal the round back, Blanchfield tried to get a takedown herself, but was shut down. So clearly, one of the biggest underdogs of the night, actually, JJ Aldrich did definitely win that opening round. Listening to the advice of her corner, though, Erin pressured forward at the start of the second, but was met with actually quite a bit of clinch work from JJ. Finally, Erin managed to get that first big moment of the fight, clipped JJ and stumbled her, and that was her avenue, of course, into getting that takedown. She dragged her into the fence, grabbed her neck in a standing guillotine, and Aldrich just couldn't fight the hands. Found herself on the ground, and she was forced to tap in the second round. And that, by the way, is Blanchfield's first UFC finish. Amazing, amazing. And I got it right. We got to finish right. We got it. I was right about the finish, but she did struggle a lot more than I thought she would. And a lot more than, most people thought she would, especially with JJ's size. I would say that that's actually more of a testament to how good JJ is, though. I really do think that, rather than, let's say, a knock on Blanchfield. Like, we're not trying to bring Blanchfield down by saying this. I'm actually saying that JJ just did a lot better than I thought she would. That's really all it is, because they both actually looked really good in this. Considering the state of the lower half of the flyweight rankings, because the top half, looking pretty good. The bottom half, not so much. I still firmly believe that Blanchfield would fairly easily run through the ladies from 7 to 15. But yeah, above that, it's going to take a little bit more work. But of course, I really do think she's going to get there. She mentioned the winner of Macy Barber's next fight. I can't remember who she's fighting. I think I believe it's Maya, but honestly, I'm not really sure. Or maybe it was I don't really know. But yeah, the winner of Macy Barber's next fight, she wants to do that. And honestly, I think that's the right move. I actually said months ago, I think Blanchfield, this was before she even fought Maverick, I was saying that Blanchfield should fight Barber. So, I mean, instead of Barber, who may or may not win the next one, get the winner of that fight instead. That's what I'm thinking. So I agree. The next one after that was a UFC debut from Rinat Fakhretdinov against Andreas Michailidis. my God, did Fakhretdinov look good in this one. He pressured early, hit Michailidis with a big one. From there, got straight into what he wanted to do, launched Michailidis into the fence. From there, Fakhretdinov dragged him to the ground multiple times, really showing his just insane grappling and wrestling ability. As the round went on, Andreas, he did better at defending, but Fakhretdinov was still clearly in control of all the action there. The second round started off even better for Fakhretdinov. Ran straight at Michailidis, dragged him down, and with over 3 minutes of smothering wrestling, Fakhretdinov finally got into full top control and started working towards a submission there. Michailidis managed to get up with about 30 seconds left into that round, but I mean, clearly Fakhretdinov was winning on the cards, up 2-0, pretty clear 2-0. Michailidis did try to get some striking going at the start of that closing round, but because he was that aggressive, made a pretty clear mistake. Even tried to go for a takedown. I mean, why would you go for a takedown against Fakhretdinov? Just not a good idea in general. And really just a matter of Fakhretdinov burning out the clock at that point to get a fantastic win in his UFC debut by decision. After that, it was the second prelim that I talked about last time, which was Jeff Molina and Zhalgas Zhumagulov, which still is one of my favorite names to say. My prediction was actually Zhumagulov by decision going into this. And by the way, I wasn't really that far off. Because he's done so well against people that are still entrenched in the rankings. He's not fighting, he wasn't fighting nobodies before this, even though his record was, I think, 1-3. Yes, it was 1-3. So yeah, I was going with Zhumagulov on this one. And Molina was the one pushing the pace early, walking forward, landed a couple of early combos there. But Zhalgas made a statement after that, landed a bomb, stunned Molina a bit. And from there, that's when Zhalgas started to get his own game plan going. He pinned Jeff along the fence, tried to drag that fight to the ground. And after some heavy work in the clinch from Zhalgas for over half the round, Molina finally did get out of it and move back to his striking. Sadly for him, though, all of that clinching clearly, I would say, gave the round to Zhalgas there. So 1-up for Zhalgas after the first round there. Zhalgas started the action this time in the second round, landing some combos early. Molina tried to respond with some kicks, but Zhalgas caught one of them and used it to get his grappling going once again. Took him a couple of minutes, but Molina finally did get out of the clinch that ensued from that scenario. But to me, I mean, because of the clinch again and the offense, I mean, you probably had to give Zhalgas that round too. So to me, he was up 2-0. He was up 2-0 already. He really was. And I could have maybe seen it as 1-1, a tie, Molina getting that round, maybe, but still, like I said, in my mind at least, and in the mind of a lot of people that I saw on Twitter and all that, and even on the broadcast itself, it was 2-0 Zhalgas. That's what I was seeing. So knowing he had to make a move, because Molina clearly thought he was down 2, so did his corners, or at least that it was tied, he had to make a move with his striking in the last round, but didn't really land too much of significance. After taking it easy at the start of the round, Zhalgas started to land a couple of big shots, closed out the round with some more grappling. For me, though, I would have said it was a little bit too late for Zhalgas in that round, and that Molina, with all of the extra offense in the first part of the round, took that round. So for me, that was a 29-28 for sure for Zhalgas. And maybe I could have seen it as 28 or 29-28 for Molina. But again, I definitely would not have scored it that way. And I say all of this because once again, we have just a complete ridiculous judge's decision here. I mean, we had a split decision, so it was 29-28 for Zhalgas and 29-28 for Molina on two of the cards. But then we had the ridiculous one, and it is in the lead for the worst judges card of the month for sure. And it was talked about a lot. And I mean, I'm going to talk about it a little bit here too, obviously, because somebody scored it 30-27 for Molina, and that was so absurd. It was so out of the realm of anything that was possible that Jeff Molina himself, when he heard the 30-27, he threw away the ref's hand and started walking out of the cage because he was like, "Are you fucking kidding me? That somebody scored it 30-27 for Zhalgas." But he didn't even have to say the name yet. He was like, okay, well, I clearly lost this fight because obviously I didn't score 30-27. So clearly it was Zhalgas who scored 30-27. But then the name left. I don't know if it was Bruce Buffer or no, I think it was Martinez this time, I think. Is that his name? I think it's Martinez. Anyway, so, and then we found out it was 30-27 for Molina, which, like I said, I mean, Molina was like, holy shit, what was that? What the fuck just happened? And I agree, because that's completely absurd. So in the end, Jeff Molina won by split decision, which, you know, I can maybe see in some realm of possibility that he won 29-28. I still disagree with that. But that he got 30-27 is just, I mean, seriously, just completely ridiculous. Just completely ridiculous. But we're moving on, which, by the way, bugs me even more because Zhalgas was an underdog in this and he didn't deserve to be. He clearly won the fight. So, I mean, you know, cashing in an underdog like that, I mean, we would have won so much more money. I mean, seriously. Just completely ridiculous, but whatever, we're moving on. We've got one of these in every single card that we do. What's it going to be in this next card? Who knows, but I'm sure we're going to see another stupid one. Anyway, moving on. After that was Tony Gravely and Johnny Munoz Jr. Another debut from Munoz, of course, on this side. Both of them did take it slow to start, respecting the power coming back at them, but the fight was done as soon as it started, with Munoz getting smoked with, I mean, an uppercut that I don't think anybody saw coming. And to be honest, even when I was watching it, actually, I was like, what happened there? Because actually the analyst thought that he had maybe like gotten a hip check to the face and his hip knocked him out or something. It was so crazy. Nobody really knew what had happened. And then in the replay, it was a really quick, short uppercut that just dropped Munoz, had no idea what was happening. And of course, Gravely jumped on that with some ground and pound. And that was it there for the first round TKO with, I can't remember what the time was on it, but I think it was about a minute in. So it was pretty quick. It might have even been faster than that, to be honest. Then we had Benoit Saint-Denis against Nicholas Stoltz. I was going Saint-Denis on this because, I mean, if you saw his first fight in the UFC, my God, the worst reffing performance that has probably ever taken place in the UFC. That was that weird one in Fight Island where they had that weird Russian guy as the ref, and he was asked to leave the arena after this fight because it was just so absolutely insane, the reffing. I mean, he basically let Benoit Saint-Denis die inside the octagon multiple times. And then he started taking points away from his opponent for something that was like, he took a point away from an accidental groin strike, I believe, or maybe it was an eye poke. I think it was a groin strike, though. I don't remember. Just ridiculous stuff happening. Anyway, that was Saint-Denis' first fight, but I knew that he was tough enough, so I had picked him for this one, even though I didn't mention it in the last stream. Saint-Denis was the one pressuring early, landed some combos, shot in for a takedown. That's what he wanted. got hit by a huge knee from Stoltz, but dragged the fight to the ground early and started to smother him with that wrestling. Of course, we knew he could take a knee. If he could take that onslaught for 3 rounds straight in the other one, I mean, he could take any kind of knee after that. Saint Denis drove Stoltz back into the fence after they did break up for a bit after an accidental groin strike. But Saint Denis got his grappling going and then moved it back to the ground. From there, he took the back and really started to fight for that submission. He got one in very deep, but lucky for Stoltz, the bell saved him from the rear naked choke. Stoltz got a deep submission attempt of his own to open up the second round, but Saint Denis got out of it. Used the position to drag Stoltz to the ground again, and from there he took the back, and that was it. Another rear naked choke, and this time, of course, he got it. Second round submission win for Benoit Saint Denis, and you love to see that, especially after that horrendous experience in his debut. You love to see him come back and get a win. By the way, that other performance was his only loss in his MMA career, so we knew how good he was. So to see all that happen was just awful last time. So to see him come back this time and get in there, amazing for him. Amazing comeback win. Well, not really comeback. You know what I mean. In his sophomore performance in the UFC, did very well. After that, we had Damon Jackson, the Leech, go against Daniel Argueta. Making his debut. I mean, was it his debut? I think it was. I think it was his debut. So rough way to start your UFC career. I mean, Damon Jackson is a tough matchup for anybody. So to be matched up against him, that's a horrendous debut. And that's also why Jackson was the huge, I think it was -600, -650 favorite in this one. So yeah, very well deserved, of course. Jackson ran straight in, got a massive takedown in with less than 30 seconds into the fight. I mean, we all knew he was going to go for that, but right away got that control in, immediately started taking the back and working for a submission. And with about 30 seconds left into the round, Argueta finally regained control. So, I mean, Jackson basically 4 minutes straight of control time. Clearly won the first round there. Argueta was actually the one who tried to get the action going early in the second round, but Jackson quickly got that control back, moved the fight to the ground again, and took Argueta's back once again. I mean, it should be said, though, that Argueta was doing well trying to fight off those submissions because he didn't actually end up getting finished in this fight. You have to remember that, especially considering Jackson is such a submission threat. Really a submission machine. So to get out of that, very impressive to get it through the whole fight. But like I said, and I mean, it's just over and over, really the same thing. That was the whole second round too. Just completely relentless with that. And he did get back up again with about 30 seconds left in the round. But again, way too late for that. Way too late for that. Clear 2 rounds to nothing there. Then in the final round, Argueta came in heavy with his striking, actually stumbled Jackson this time with a massive shot. And things actually did start to get a little iffy, a little concerning for Jackson, getting lit up on the feet there. But that's when Argueta made a crucial mistake. He went in for a takedown, and why would you do that? I mean, it's the same thing as what we saw with Michailidis and Fakhretdinov. You don't go for a takedown against somebody like that. Crucial mistake. Jackson reversed him, found himself on top. And from there, of course, it was Jackson controlling the action with the wrestling for the rest of the fight. And, you know, honestly, I could have seen, it was either going to be a 30-27 or a 29-28 for Jackson. No, absolutely no doubt in anybody's mind that he won that fight. I would have probably given it to all 3 rounds to Jackson, but it was so close in the last one that I easily could have seen the judges giving it to Jackson. And if you looked at the cards, it was 30-27, 30-27, and 29-28 on there. all for Jackson, of course. Then we had another, actually, no, was it a debut? I can't remember. I can't remember if Alex De Silva was one of the people who was making a debut or not. But anyway, Joe Selecki, Alex De Silva, very, very close fight in this one. Literally, oh, actually, no, almost as close as it could have been, because as close as it could have been would be a draw. But it was as close to a draw as it could have been without an actual draw. And that would be a majority decision. So both men ran straight into it, but it was De Silva who landed first, dropped Selecki with a huge hook. Selecki was fighting hard to get up or set up a submission, but De Silva was doing very well to keep him on the ground and stay in that dominant position. Eventually, Selecki did manage to slip into a good position and sink in a guillotine there. It was pretty tight. But De Silva slipped out of it and went back into that top position. Selecki was the one who pushed the action in the second round. So, I mean, opening round, I would say clearly went for De Silva there. All that control time and all that action, the knockdown and everything, clearly De Silva. The second round, Selecki was the one who started pushing the action, shot in for an early takedown, pushed De Silva into the fence. From there, he took his back to work for a submission. Selecki had his submission on and under the chin, actually, on multiple occasions, but somehow De Silva really fought very hard to get out of it each and every time. Just insane, really, that he managed to get out of those. But I mean, sadly, because of a bunch of toes in the fence and some glove grabbing, the ref was forced to jump in and actually take a point. And you know what? I hate to see that, and you hate to see it happen because of toes in the fence and glove grabbing and all that garbage. But you know what? I gotta say, it was so over the top, and he was doing it over and over and over again. So sadly, De Silva did get a point taken away because of that. But deserved. I mean, seriously. It was pretty bad. It was the most blatant toes in the fence and glove grabbing I've ever seen. It was ridiculous. But anyway, sadly, lost the point there. So clearly, I mean, you lose the point. That's not good when you're probably going to end up in a decision there. And also clearly lost the round, I would say, because of all that control time and all of that. So to me, it was what would the math work out to be? 19-18. To me, it was 19-18 for Selecki at this point, of course, because he lost the first round and then the point deduction. So it would have been 19-19, but then the point deduction takes that one off. So that would be 19-18 for Selecki at this point. And I thought it was fairly clear, but I will say I could have seen maybe a couple of the judges scoring it a 10-8. Scoring it a 10-8 in the second, which would actually mean that it was the decision would have been out of reach at that point. I thought it could have been either 19-18, like I said, like I would have scored it, or they may have scored it 19-17 after 2, which again would have meant that it was out of range for De Silva. So I would say either one of those was pretty fair. The last round in, obviously De Silva knew he was down. From there, where are we here? Knowing he needed to finish, De Silva did push forward with his striking. He was doing pretty well, but Selecki grabbed the clinch and dragged the fight to the ground. From there, De Silva did get back up, though, and got back to the striking. And to me, because of all the striking, and he did get a little bit of control time, De Silva clearly won the third round to me and was up 2-1. So on my scorecards, that was a 28-28. That was about as clear of a 28-28 as you can have, in my opinion. That's what I thought, with maybe a couple of judges leaning towards a 10-8 in the second round. But yeah, that's what I had it. That's what I had it here. And I made a mistake here by saying that was the second round. It's the third round. There we go. Yeah, that seemed to be the obvious result, was a draw. But the judges ended up scoring it 28-28. Fair. That's what I had it. 28-27. And like I said, that was also kind of fair for the 10-8 in the second round, possibly. So I was already like, okay, 28-27, fine, whatever. But then it was 29-27 for Selecki on there. One of the judges had it. And that's where it's like, okay. Like, now we're getting out of the realm of possibility. Like, now you're pushing it a little bit. And that's why it was a majority decision. Of course, he won on 2 of the cards and, of course, got a draw on the second one, which, again, is as close as you can get to a draw without actually having a draw. So very, very close. Again, that was a pretty clear draw for me. So I got kind of robbed there because I actually did have De Silva. I mean, not that I'm saying De Silva should have won on the cards here. I'm not saying that at all because I don't believe that at all. But I do believe that it was a tie. It was a pretty clear draw. So a little bit upset about that. But again, I digress. Whatever. Then we had the featured prelim after that, and that was one that I had talked about, of course, last week. It was Felice Herrig and Karolina Kowalkiewicz, which was actually supposed to open up the main card, but they flipped around the matchups, and I'm glad they did, because honestly, I had even actually said that last week, that it was a bit of a weird order for me. I don't really know why they had ordered it like that, so they did end up switching it over to this matchup here. And I had Kowalkiewicz by decision. And of course, that was partially because she won the first time they fought together, but also Kowalkiewicz way more active and just seemed much better in the tape. So I was going Kowalkiewicz for sure on this one. And she was the one pressuring early, landed some early combos, but Herrig was quick to respond with some combos of her own. Definitely did put up a decent fight. As the round went on, both the ladies started to let their hands go. From there, Kowalkiewicz was the one who finally stole the momentum of the fight. She pushed Herrig into the fence, started to get her grappling going. And with all of the work in the clinch and the extra strikes, pretty clear that Kowalkiewicz won that opening round. Just like that opening round, the ladies let loose some insane combos, of course. This time, Herrig landing the better shots. Herrig tried to get her first takedown of the fight, but was quickly reversed by Kowalkiewicz. Not a good choice. Should have stayed with the striking for sure. From there, she took Herrig's back and locked in a deep submission attempt. Deep rear naked choke. Herrig did get out of it, but Kowalkiewicz was still on her back, still looking for the finish. And after some heavy ground and pound to loosen her up a bit, Kowalkiewicz slipped in another deep submission attempt and finally locked it in. Broke her 5-fight losing streak. Got her first finish, by the way, since all the way back in 2014. And even though she's a huge veteran of the UFC, has not gotten a UFC finish until this weekend. So that was her first UFC finish, which is crazy to say. And her first finish in 8 years, again, breaking a 5-fight losing streak. So for me, that was most valuable fighter of the night. Because, I mean, that is crazy stuff to overcome. And just amazing, like just an amazing feeling. And you could see that feeling wash over her, of course, as she won, knowing that she won the fight, obviously, just watching that happen. It's just incredible to see that happen. That's one of the reasons why MMA is so incredible, because it's not like you're watching a team sport thing where it's like, okay, they lose a couple games. Wow. Whatever. They're still going to end up the season with, like 20 losses and 40 wins or whatever. Or, even more losses, whatever. But when you see somebody hasn't won in years, literally 4 years, she hadn't won, 5 losses in a row. And, you're getting near the end of your career, to overcome that and then win. I mean, just the sensation of that must be insane. And watching it happen as a fan too is just, there's no words really. It's just incredible to see that happen. And of course, sadly, on the other side, Herrig, another loss, and she ended up leaving her gloves in the octagon, of course, which means that's the end of her career. And she was interviewed in the octagon as well, saying that, yeah, that's it for her. And it's sad to see, but I mean, she wasn't really going to be getting much better. And Kowalkiewicz, while she is still really good, isn't even also, she's also not really, in the best place in her career either. So, I mean, yeah, obvious ending to Felice Herrig's career, but great while it lasted. And I mean, yeah, never going to forget Felice Herrig, of course. She's always going to be a part of that UFC history, of course. So after that, we had the main card. Finally, we're on to the main card half an hour into the stream. We're on the main card. That was Alonzo Menifield going against Askar Mojarov. And it's a hilarious. I mean, the way this story transformed over that week was insane, because we didn't know about this last Wednesday when we streamed this, of course. I had even actually pointed it out that his record was a little bit bizarre and unusual for people in the UFC, at least. And it was weird to me that he was even getting a debut. And then, of course, we found out again after our stream last time, that Mojarov apparently was actually fudging the numbers of his record. He was not actually at, where are we here? Yeah, he was not actually at 25-7, which is what I reported him to be at, of course. But he was actually at 19-12. So he had actually faked the numbers of quite a few of them, said that he won ones that he didn't. He also said that he won ones that didn't even exist. So he had a bunch of different records. Plus, he actually had changed his name. He changed his name so they didn't keep track of his record, of his first few fights that he lost too. So all of that actually led up to him getting a final record, confirmed record of 19-12. So way different from that 25-7 record, sitting at 19-12. But even all of that aside, I mean, I even said, when I saw him, I watched a couple of his fights, and I mean, he was beating absolute nobodies, people that had no fights on their record whatsoever. So basically probably paying people to just get knocked out in the first round, essentially. And not only that, but he was actually on Titan FC, I believe. Yeah, it was Titan FC, I think. Yes, Titan FC, just a couple years ago, and was knocked out in the first couple minutes by somebody who was actually smaller than him. So for me, I mean, this seemed like a complete no-brainer. It was obviously all in Menifield's direction. For anybody that did any kind of research, they would have known Menifield way, way in favor of this fight. I mean, seriously. So I was going Menifield by finish on this one, guaranteed. I mean, Menifield, and you know what? Menifield wasted absolutely no time. He was actually very upset about that whole record fiasco. And it's disrespectful that he did that, that he did all that record bullshit and all the other things. And then, of course, he started trash talking with Menifield and his corner during the fight. And you've got to have some set of balls to do that against Menifield, who is massive for the division and somebody who is a true bona fide contender in the UFC. So to do that, I mean, that's absolutely mental. This guy, Mojarov, is never going to see the UFC again. I can guarantee you that. Menifield wasted absolutely no time, smoked Mojarov with a big one, dragged him to the canvas less than 30 seconds in. I mean, just absolute dominance already. And Menifield didn't seem to really be threatening much of a finish on the ground at first, but was very dominant, smothered Mojarov with the wrestling. Sadly, Menifield did make a mistake, leading Mojarov to get back up to his feet, but he quickly recovered, dragged Mojarov back down, and this time just way too much. Alonzo moved into the crucifix position, landed bomb after bomb until the ref was forced to stop in, getting that TKO win in the first round. And we love to see that. We love to see some kind of basically con artist get absolutely destroyed. And honestly, I don't really see the point of trying to do all that all the time because, yeah, he got to the UFC, but then what happened? Like, he got destroyed in the first round, and now everybody knows that he's a fake and his career is essentially ruined. So, what did you gain by that, really? And everybody hates you now, So, what do you gain by that? I don't know. But anyway, amazing performance by Menifield. Love to see that. And he's a great guy, too. He's an insane fighter. So, amazing to see that. After that, another huge flyweight fight. Ode Osbourne, Jaruk Adashev. I was going Osbourne by decision on this because Osbourne is seriously, I would say, deserves to be in the top 15 already, to be honest. He's so good. So good. So, these two let loose early exactly as we expected. But before the fight even really started to heat up, Osbourne actually clipped Adashev with an absolute rocket, dropped him down, and from there, just a formality, let loose some ground and pound, and actually knocked him out cold with the ground and pound. Just sheer striking dominance, insane performance by Ode Osbourne. Another quick first round KO. And I mean, come on, like, give this guy somebody in the top 15. It's so insane. Seriously. Like I said, I would say that he's already capable of beating somebody, of being in the top 15, I should say, and beating somebody in the top 15, of course, especially if he's matched up with somebody like Elliott or Schnell, who really, to me, shouldn't even be in the top 15 anymore. Or Sumu Darji, who is good, but again, Ode Osbourne's just a whole other level. It's just so much better. But in his post-fight interview, he actually mentioned he'd like to take on Molina, who we talked about earlier, of course. And I mean, sure, that's an exciting matchup, and we'd all love to see that, but that's clearly the easy way to go out because, I mean, seriously, he didn't even beat Zhumagulov. And yeah, I mean, Molina to me doesn't even really... maybe he could grab the 15th spot or the 14th spot, but to me, he's not even really in the same conversation as Ode Osbourne and Manel Kape, who we will talk about later today. He's not even really in that conversation for me, really. I hate to say, because Molina seems like a great guy, like a super nice guy. He's super talented, but I'm sorry, just not on the same level, to be honest, right now, at least right now. But anyway, so I think that's a little bit of an easy matchup, but nonetheless would be very, very entertaining. Then we saw the ladies, and it was actually another UFC debut. It was Karine Silva making her debut against Poliana Botelho, and I had the rookie in my, I picked the rookie by decision in this one, Silva, because she was so dominant, just hugely dominant on the ground in the Contender Series. And I knew that Botelho struggled with that kind of thing. So I figured she would either get maybe a finish or probably more likely a decision. And that is exactly what we saw. Botelho is large, but Silva had a clear size advantage. I mean, she is absolutely massive and shredded, by the way. I mean, it's crazy to see. You don't usually see women with that kind of physique, like just the huge and just shredded physique. It's insane, absolutely massive. The power coming back, especially when you're a grappler. I mean, good God. Just, I don't know how, not too many people are going to be able to match up with her, but I'll get into that in a second. Anyway, the fight though. They were a bit hesitant to start, but Botelho, being the more experienced fighter here, was getting more of her strikes out there, trying to win on the cards probably. Finally, though, at the end of the start, after taking the start of the round easy, Silva switched gears and ran straight into Botelho. Flipped on a dime there, really. Slammed her into the ground and turned into an absolute animal. She smashed Botelho with some heavy ground and pound, then switched to a submission attempt and essentially really folded Botelho in half. I mean, insane submission, deep, deep Darce choke, and squeezed it until she had absolutely no choice but to tap, giving Silva an incredible first round finish in her debut. Just an insane way. I mean, what a way to start your career. Insane, insane. Only the second Darce choke in the women's side of the UFC. And yeah, in her debut like that. To me, this reminds me so much of Erin Blanchfield. It really does. I think she very much is the future of the flyweight division, just like Blanchfield is. I mean, these two gonna fly up those rankings and probably, I would assume, eventually fight each other somewhere near the top there. Maybe even eventually after one of them wins a title, maybe after Shevchenko leaves, of course. But yeah, I think you'd have to imagine that one of these two, if they don't win the title, I mean, both of them are probably going to end up in the top 5 at some point. They're so good. But anyway, she's very fast. She's a great striker, incredible grappler. I don't know if you could throw her into the top 15 right away. I don't know. But I could, that's obviously the direction that it's headed in. And you could honestly probably say that she could compete fairly easily with somebody from about 10 to 15 right now. Someone on the edge of the rankings, I was thinking like Miranda Maverick or Robertson or Aldrich, who we just talked about. Somebody who's not quite in the rankings yet, but on the edge of them, may be the way to go. That's what I'm thinking, because they're still very good opponents, trying to make their way back into the rankings, but they're not quite in the rankings yet. That's what I think is probably next for her. But my God, what an exciting prospect, seriously. Then we had Mike Trizano, Lucas Almeida. I mean, the 12th fight of the night. Good Lord, there's still 2 more. Long night it was, but a great night. I had Trizano by decision, like most people. Almeida was making his debut from the not from the Contender Series. In fact, he actually lost on the Contender Series, which is one of the main reasons why I did not pick him, and most people did not pick him to win this one. Yeah, both guys tried to pressure forward here, but it was Almeida landing the better strikes early in response to Almeida's striking, and in response to that, I should say, Trizano moved into some heavy clinch work along the fence. Almeida did struggle with that clinch work, but got out of it and landed a huge combo, forcing Trizano to shoot for another clinch. It was looking like Almeida was probably going to clinch that opening round thanks to the striking, until Trizano smoked him with a knee, let him fall on his back on the canvas. And amazingly, he still got out of the round, but clearly lost the round on the card. I mean, obviously, when you get knocked down like that, that's the end of that round. You clearly lost the round. And with all that confidence from that opening round, from just because it was late in the round too, Trizano pressured forward early in the second, but was continuously met with a barrage of strikes from Almeida. So really getting back into that striking. Then it was Almeida who stole the momentum, grabbed a knockdown of his own, dropped Trizano to the ground, and jumped right on top of him. Sadly, from there, though, we saw an accidental clash of heads, Trizano leaking blood all over the place. And I think that's really where it started to turn for him. And that was kind of the turning point of where it was like, okay, you know what? I think Almeida's going to walk away with this now, because it was so much blood. And I mean, you can recover after that, but you can't get back to that exact same point. I guess so it's not fully recovering. You can't get back to that same point after that. Trizano leaking blood all over the place. And after obviously a wild comeback round, it was tied 1-1, very clear 1-1, dead even going into the third one. And they started off the final round even, but ultimately it was Almeida who landed first, dropped Trizano and finished him on the ground with some huge ground and pound. And that was, a third round TKO win for Lucas Almeida in his debut. Very interesting debut from that. Actually, really a lot of debuts. I mean, really, how many debuts was this? Like 4 or 5? Insane. Then we had the co-main event. My God, the co-main event. Dan Ige, Movsar Evloev, or Evloev, I believe they pronounce it. I was going, of course, with Movsar by decision here because of that insane wrestling. I mean, and especially since Ige does struggle with wrestling. Oh boy. Ige made the first move, lighting up Evloev with a fantastic combo, possibly stumbling him a bit. From there, though, it seemed like Movsar actually was the one with the crisper striking, which was, I did not see coming. I don't think anybody saw that one coming. With him even landing a massive flying knee that rocked Ige. Now he was worried about the striking, which is not a good place to be in when your opponent is also one of the best wrestlers in the division, and you're also worried about the striking now. Not a good combination. What was I going to say here? So that took his mind off the wrestling threat, and that was a problem, of course, because then he was slammed into the ground a couple times in a row. The second round opened with some more crisp striking from both sides, but Evloev landed another huge flying knee to put Ige back on his heels. Amazingly, the striker Ige was landing some big in response to that. Oh, wow, I skipped a line here. Oh, yeah, no, I didn't. The striker Ige, he was landing quite a bit actually in the second round, but Evloev was not fazed by that at all. He actually didn't even react, which is absolutely insane because we know how good Ige really is. So to see all this happen is just a testament really to how good Movsar actually is. In response to the striking, though, Movsar decided to bring that fight back to the ground. Probably not a smarter move because we knew he was going to win the fight on the feet anyway, too. But smarter for his face and his long-term health, of course. Really solidified the round again by dragging that fight back to the ground. And the third round, I mean, what can you say here? He knew that Ige, of course, was going to try and go in insane with the striking, really hard, really get the striking going, of course. But Evloev didn't want any part of that, of course. Nobody wants a part of that. So he just took it right down to the ground right away, controlled him really for pretty much the entire rest of the round, and a clear 30-27 on the cards here for me. And the judges agreed, scoring it 30-27, 30-27, and actually got a 30-26 from one of the judges here. But clear win, of course, for Movsar. And like everyone else, I think everybody was expecting a wrestling-heavy approach, of course, from Evloev. But, and also, of course, considering Ige's history, especially with the Korean Zombie, and there was somebody else who wrestled quite a bit against him, but I can't remember who at this point. Anyway, that being said, it actually might have been a smart move because now we all know how incredible he is on the feet as well. So not only do they have to worry about the ground, but they also have to worry about the striking. And that is a dangerous prospect for the rest of the division. I mean, personally, I think he's going to have close win. I would say he would have a close win over somebody like Cater, the Korean Zombie, and Emmett. I really do. I mean, it would be close, but I really do think he would probably edge ahead against those people. Anybody ahead of that? I don't think so. Probably not. Probably not right away, but we'll see. But I mean, against those guys, I really do think that. But he's gone in a slightly different direction. He is going balls to the wall for this. He challenged Arnold Allen and wants it to happen in London. That means somebody who is undefeated in the UFC, Arnold Allen, with an 8-fight win streak, I believe it was, kickboxer, amazing striker, who is British, of course, was challenged in London by Movsar-Evloev. Just insane, bold move, but I respect it. And I think he's probably got a pretty good chance of winning that fight too. So I would love to see that fight. And it's really smart in terms of the title shot projection there too, because if he wins that in a dominant fashion, he probably will get a title shot within the next year and a half. I really do think that. I mean, just incredible. He's so good. Then closing out the night, finally, it was Alexander Volkov and Jairzinho Rozenstruik. I was going Volkov by decision in this one because I didn't really think either one of them was going to get finished, to be honest. But I did think that Volkov was going to be more active and he was going to clinch a lot. He was going to do better in the exchanges. So I was thinking Volkov by decision on this one, especially since he's only been finished by Lewis and Aspinall and I believe Ngannou. I can't remember. But yeah, he's only been finished like 2 or 3 times. So to me, I didn't think Jairzinho was going to be able to finish him. But it was a little weirder than that. It was a little weirder, actually, because unlike, well, the ending was weird, actually. Unlike many heavyweight fights, I'm losing my voice. Both men were actually pushing the pace pretty hard early, which is rare for the heavyweights there. Volkov was the busier striker, landing kicks and, a double and here in my notes, kicks and punches from a distance. And it was Rozenstruik who landed the big one first. And of course, I've another typo. Wow. I was on some shit here, clearly. He landed a huge shot and got a little bit reckless, Jairzinho did. Ran straight at Volkov. And Volkov responded well with a quick elbow to back him up. Say, hey, buddy, you can't run into me like that. I'm not some schmo. You can't just run into me like that. And from there, Volkov decided to get one back, smoked him with a couple of big ones until Rozenstruik was melting along the fence. And Volkov just poured on the pressure until the ref stopped the fight and got an incredible first round TKO. To me, I didn't think it was really a premature stoppage. A lot of people said, early stoppage. But I mean, if you saw the finish, like what do you think was going to happen 20, 30 seconds from there? Volkov was just going as hard as he could, just kept going. And I mean, really another 10, 15 seconds, he was going to either knock him out clean or he was going to knock him down to the ground and get a ground and pound finish anyway, because he had already stumbled him and made him fall against the cage. So, I mean, he's just going to do it again. I just didn't see a point in keeping it going either. So I was actually in favor of that stoppage. I was fine with it. I don't really think it was early. I mean, I don't know. Rozenstruik seems to think it was a little early. Some other fans think it was a little early. I just don't see it. I don't see it. He was going to win the fight anyway right after that, probably within 20, 30 seconds. So to me, the stoppage was fine. But what's next? The heavyweight division, very tough because everybody's really already set to fight. Volkov was asked about a rematch with Lewis, and he seemed a little bit uninterested, or maybe he's a little scared to do that. I don't know. But I think he can prove that the loss was a fluke. Do I think it was a fluke? Maybe. I didn't watch that fight, so I don't know if it was a fluke or not. But you know how Lewis wins his fights. It's by one huge strike and he wins. So I mean, and Volkov was probably winning the rest of that fight. To be, let's be honest, he was probably winning before that. So I think he should take it. It's his way back into the top 5. You can avenge that loss, prove that, hey, he got me with a good one. All credit to him. He got the KO. but he can prove that, hey, I'm better than that and I can win this fight. I think that's what he needs to do. Get back in there against Lewis, win that fight, and you're back in the top five. You're back in that title conversation again, which is that's what he's working towards here. So I think that's what he should be doing next. As for Rosenstrike, to me, I think he's kind of fallen into that gatekeeper role. You don't usually like to call people that, but what else do you call somebody like that? He's a gatekeeper to the top 10 now. If you want to get into the top 10, you probably got to get through him. That's really what he is now. And he's going to be great at doing that because he's still very good, but it just seems like he can't compete with somebody who's on that next level, whether that's Volkov, Aspinall, Gan, Ngannou, or Gan? Did I say Gan? Gan, Ngannou, Stipe, John Jones eventually. He's just not on that same level. There's just like, he's here and the other ones are there. And then there's a couple other people that are maybe here. But anyway, there's just that clear separate difference in skill. So my bonuses for the night was Ode Osbourne for KO of the night. I mean, absolutely insane KO. By the way, it was also the second fastest flyweight KO in UFC history. So that already is insane at a minute. I was like a minute and 3 seconds or something like that. So that's already impressive. Got a record and just a crazy finish as it is. The sub of the night, Karine Silva, of course, the second Darce choke in women's UFC history. So huge. And I mean, that's in her debut. And she did that against somebody who's been around for a while. So you can't overstate how impressive that really is. So of course she got my submission bonus of the night. And then brawl of the night for me was Mike Trizano and Lucas Almeida, because there was a knockdown in every single round. First, it was Almeida getting knocked down. Then it was Trizano getting knocked down. And then, of course, the KO in the final round by Almeida. So a hugely exciting fight. Of course, with all the blood, too. The elbow cut the face open, all the blood everywhere. You'll love that. Fight of the night for sure. And most valuable fighter, I already said this, Karolina Kowalkiewicz, of course. I mean, I mentioned all of it already. 5-fight losing streak broken. First finish in the UFC. First finish since 2014. All around amazing. And that is it for UFC Vegas 56. Took us an hour, but we're here. And before we take a quick break, we will get on to The Ultimate Fighter Season 30, Episode 6. And it was a great episode. It really was. Yeah, I was just impressed. I really was. I mean, we had, back to the flyweights again, I didn't finish writing the article yet, so my notes are a bit messed up here. But we had Claire Guthrie, I believe. Where are the names here? Yeah, we had Claire Guthrie on one side, and we had Juliana Miller on the other side. Personally, with all the stuff that she was saying last episode, I'm not really a fan of Juliana Miller. I'm really not. I love the story. The story that she's got is amazing. It's incredible. But as a person, though, the personality, I don't vibe with really at all. But anyway, that aside, so it opened with actually Team Pena going out on a hike. That was with Juliana Miller, of course. Juliana Miller going crazy all over the rocks, having a great time, climbing all over the place. And interestingly, like I didn't mention this stream, of course, but last stream, I mentioned the fact that actually Juliana Miller and Claire Guthrie had already fought. And not only had they just fought, but that was actually Juliana Miller's only loss. And it was actually both of their last fights. So this is basically an immediate rematch kind of situation we had here. And in the first one, Guthrie actually took the edge on the cards. But Pena was very clear. Juliana Pena, Coach Juliana Pena, I should say, was very clear in saying that she actually thought that Miller had won the fight and didn't think that Guthrie had really done much to beat her. So she had really thought that Miller had won this fight, and that's actually probably why she picked Miller right away after Guthrie was picked. But anyway, what was I saying here? Other than that, that was kind of the backstory for the two of them. That's kind of what they went into. They also mentioned how close Miller is with her grandma, and she was raised by her grandma, very much grew up in a terrible situation. And that's what I was saying before. Like, the story it's really motivational, and it's a great story that she's gone through all that and gone out on the other side of it. You love that. But again, the personality, not so great. But as for Guthrie, though, on the other side of it, the main story for her actually was her weigh-in this time, which was she weighed in at 142 pounds at the start of the week. So had to lose a crisp 17 pounds before Friday. It was looking rough, you got to say. And just as it was similar almost to an Oliveira actually situation, where she thought actually that she did weigh in at 125, but then it turns out on the scales she weighed in at 127, so not looking good. Had an hour to lose the weight, and if she didn't, she lost the fight. Of course, would be kicked from the show, and Miller would move on to the semifinals. But we saw, I mean, she managed to do it. It took her everything. You know, I had to break some kind of a sweat, made it down to 126 and a half, which of course the limit, of course, is technically 126 because you have that pound of discrepancy there to work with. So had to lose that half a pound. And sadly, oh, I feel bad for her hair, her stylist. Oh my God, because I used to have amazing hair before COVID, when I shaved it off essentially, and then started wearing hats again. But I feel for the stylist. I feel for her because she had great hair before that. She had dyed it red. It looked fantastic. And she had to chop it all, not all of it, but she had to chop about half of it off. Didn't have the ponytail anymore, had short hair after that, but it worked. She lost the half a pound thanks to the haircut. I've never seen that before, but I have heard of it happening. And she made it. She made it. So that was the lead up to the fight. And my God, what a lead up to the fight. I mean, seriously. The fight itself, though, Miller did not want to waste any time, ran straight at Guthrie. And I kind of figured, you could kind of figure that was going to happen because she was pissed about losing that first time. So wanted to get in there early and prove a point. Landed a couple of nice shots, but was interrupted by the clinch game of Claire because, of course, being that she weighed 142 pounds at the start of the week, she was very much the larger fighter here, the stronger fighter. So yeah, but in the clinch though, Miller was actually the more active one, you know, getting controlled a lot, but still landing elbows and short punches and all of that all over the place, doing really well to kind of throw off the rhythm of Guthrie there. And of course, not wanting to lose on the cards like that again in the similar way. You don't want to lose like that twice in a row, especially to the same person. As the round went on, though, the roles started to reverse, and it was Guthrie that was the one pressuring with striking, which is kind of what you would think would be happening, considering Miller is a grappling expert and a submission artist on the ground with not much striking experience. But yeah, so Guthrie, what was I saying? Just like the last matchup, I mean, the first round of this was insanely close. And I couldn't really tell who was ahead on the cards. I was kind of maybe giving it to, I can't, actually, you know what? I can't even remember. It was that close that I can't even remember who I picked, but it was so close. And it honestly, one of the best fights I've seen all season, seriously, on The Ultimate Fighter, this one. I've lost my place here. Oh yeah, okay. In the second one, the second round, Guthrie opened up with her striking, lit Miller up on the feet, and after landing some combos, though, the fight finally hit the canvas. Miller attempted a slick submission attempt, and fairly quickly, Guthrie managed to get back up, get her striking going. Oh, yeah, okay. Yeah, maybe I was thinking that Miller won the opening round. I can't tell. We'll get into it. I did think it was tied after 2, though, just like Dana and Forrest. But anyway, Miller was doing well, but Claire seemed to be landing this slightly more and slightly harder, and also edging ahead in the clinch. But then it was Miller that stole the momentum, getting in close with a clinch and dragging Guthrie down to the ground. And from there, she went to work, grabbed Claire's back, started laying into her. And that was it after the first 2 rounds. So, I mean, then it goes up to Dana and Forrest, of course, Forrest Griffin, on whether they should do the 3rd round. And I mean, seriously, most entertaining fight of the season by far in my mind. And it's actually one of the most entertaining female fights I've ever seen. Seriously. It was a really good fight. I mean, if you're looking for a good women's fight to watch this one. Seriously. I mean, it was really good. It was so good. And it was so good that Dana and Forrest, of course, were forced to bring in a 3rd round, bring it in for that sudden victory round. And from there, it was Miller. It was all Miller on this one. Riding high off of that momentum in the last round, Miller came in hard with the clinch, tried to bring this fight back down to the ground. Guthrie managed to get on top, but was in huge trouble after Miller was working towards an arm bar. And for over a minute, actually, Miller was trying to get that arm out. I think there was a Kimura in there as well. But she did manage to get out of it. What was I going to say? She couldn't get the arm bar, Miller, but she did use that position to get on top. And Guthrie did manage to actually get up after that, but was quickly pinned along the fence by a very determined Miller. Claire went for a late guillotine, but it was really no use at this point. Miller finished the fight on top, put a stamp on the round, and really on the fight after she got that late takedown. I mean, with all the control time in the last round, and she was clearly going to be winning if it even went to a 4th round as well. She was clearly just ahead. So they gave the win, the unanimous decision win, which means basically both Dana and Forrest gave the win to Juliana Miller from Team Pena. And it sucks. It really sucks to see somebody like Claire Guthrie leave the competition that early. I truly believe that she actually could have made the final. I really do. She was that good. But I have a feeling that she will make an appearance on the UFC or even the Contender Series at some point, because we need more female fighters. And she was so good that I would have to imagine that we're going to see her again. Plus, I mean, Dana loves that professionalism, of course, of losing 17 pounds on fight week to get down to that weight, chopping your hair off and making the weight like that. I mean, Dana loves that kind of stuff. So amazing to see that. Next time we will see the final heavyweight battle of the quarterfinal, and that will be Chandler Cole from Team Nunes and Jordan Heiderman from Team Pena, who is actually undefeated. So can he keep that undefeated record going? We shall see next week. So that's it for the first half of this. Of course, we'll come back and do UFC 275, but we will take a short break and we will watch a nice little ad. I will see you after this break.
Allow me to introduce High Stick Vodka, a new way to celebrate victory. Gather around the glass with an award-winning, ultra-premium Canadian-made vodka. You probably won't listen when I say High Stick Vodka has a smooth, hard-hitting taste, or that it's developed in the birthplace of hockey. You won't listen when I say High Stick Vodka is a tribute to the game of hockey, or when I tell you it's distilled 4 times using Canada's purest mountain spring water to provide an authentic, remarkable flavor. But maybe you will listen when I say it comes in a f***ing hockey stick. Showcase your passion for hockey with our limited edition hand-blown hockey stick bottle. Whether you're celebrating victory or drinking to defeat, High Stick Vodka is better after every shot. Visit us at highstickvodka.com. It also comes in this regular bottle. Celebrate victory. Drink responsibly.
And we're back. I had to have a sip of water there too. We're back with the pay-per-view, UFC 275. Of course, leaving the United States for a pay-per-view for the first time since Fight Island. We are going to be in Singapore. My God, isn't that crazy? That's amazing. The night, oh, actually, yeah, we're not going to do any build-up here. But I mean, seriously, that's so cool. It's actually the first, funny enough, it's actually the first card that I've seen that, because I've only been watching fully like every card for the last maybe, well, since COVID started actually. So I've never seen, I've actually never seen a card in Asia, unless you can, well, of course, well, Middle East, if you count Dubai. But yeah, I've never seen a card in Asia, so this should be really cool. I think it's going to be really interesting. And I think they're going to be very loud and very excited. And that is what I'm most excited about. I cannot wait for this. So let's go with the main card. It opens up with, well, so far at least, because they're probably going to change the order a little bit because they only have five fights on the main card so far. And I have a feeling they're probably going to move them around a bit. But so far, excuse me, it's opening with Jack Della Maddalena and Ramazan Emeev. Excuse me. Jack Della Maddalena is a rookie in the UFC. Got his contract on the Contender Series with a win over Ange Lusa. Looked amazing in that fight, seriously. And he also got a huge first-round TKO in his first one. And I didn't write who that was against because it doesn't matter. But he got a very good win. So 2 big wins in a row in front of UFC audiences. And he is facing Emeev. He's been here since 2017. He's 5-2, and they've all been decisions. He is a Dagestani wrestler, but not necessarily the same level as we're used to seeing, I would say. He beat Sam Alvey, Nicholas Stoltz, and David Zawada, but he did lose to Danny Roberts in his last one, which is very important because to me, Jack Della Maddalena is very, very similar to Danny Roberts. Maddalena is a long striker. He's got the reach. He's got 5-inch reach advantage in this one. And he's a very, very good striker. To me, probably even better than Danny Roberts. So I think Emeev is really going to struggle with that, which is why I'm going with Della Maddalena by decision. But it is a very, very close matchup, I will say, because again, you've got that Dagestani wrestling, that combat sambo background. So he easily could come in here and dominate him in the clinch and along the fence. But from what I've seen, because I have obviously started watching tape, and I've watched a lot of tape, and I watched a lot of tape on these two specifically because I wasn't sure which way to go. And I just think that Maddalena does have that slight extra edge. So that's what we're going to be going with here. And where's my banner here? We've got to get the banner going for the bets. There we go. Over to Bet99 for those odds. We've got Della Maddalena at -163 and Emeev at +133. So it is very close, but I'm going with the favorite at -163. But you know what? This is a very good opportunity. This could be a good opportunity to go with the underdog because Emeev really does have that background. And you've got to think, Della Maddalena, he's also only got 1 UFC fight. So it is close enough. It's close enough for sure that you really could go with the underdog Emeev on this one. And I might even write that in the article for tomorrow or Friday or whenever it comes out. So I might write that in there. So it is close enough that you could do that. The over-under, -209 for over 2.5, under 2.5 +160. I would say the clear way to go with this is the over. Yeah, at minus 209. I think that's the way to go. Yeah, that's just the way to go on this. No explanation. I mean, the explanation being that all of Amiv's fights have been decisions, and he's tough enough that he's not going to get finished, I don't think, by Della Maddalena. Maybe not. But that's just the safer bet. The next one, my God, is this a good fight? This one, I mean, seriously, this would be the most exciting matchup of the night if we also weren't talking about the next matchup, which would be Zhang Weili and Joanna. You've got Rogerio Bontorin and Manel Kape. I am so stoked for this one. This one's going to be insane. They both love a good brawl. And I mean, the flyweights in general, they're so entertaining to watch. So that's what we've got for this one. Bontorin ranked 8th. He is 1-3 in his last 4, but he has fought some of the best. He did beat Matt Schnell, but he lost out to Ray Borg, Kai Kara France, and Brandon Royval, which was in his last one, actually, in a tight split decision. Manel Kape obviously hasn't been around as long, but he's already literally fought some of the best in the division already. In his first appearance, he fought the number 3 contender, Alexandre Pantoja, and took him to a decision. He then followed that up with another loss by decision, this time in a split decision, and it was to Mateusz Nicolau. He then followed it up with 2 huge wins over Ode Osbourne and Zhalgas Zhumagulov, who we both just talked about. So, I mean, Manel Kape, insane striker. And that is where I'm going with this one. Bontorin, very, very large flyweight, by the way. He's huge. He actually looked even big at bantamweight, which is where he was fighting in his last one. Actually, not in his last one, just before that against Schnell, I think. He's very large and he can grapple very, very well. That means he's usually the slower fighter, and he's definitely the slower fighter in this fight, because Kape, genuinely one of the fastest people I've ever seen. So definite speed disadvantage here for Bontorin. Interestingly, though, even though he was much larger than Schnell in that fight, he couldn't knock him down. So to me, that says he doesn't really have the power. And Kape has the power. He's very fast. He's got an insane set of striking skills. I mean, he is so skilled. Not even just the power or the speed. He's just got the skill of the combos too. He reminds me a lot of the matchup with Kai Kara France and Bontorin. And I think it's going to be a similar thing where Kai Kara France did end up knocking Bontorin out. I think he's going to get finished at some point there. I mean, he's going to get some clinches, I'm sure, here and there. But with Kape's striking and his power, I think that's the clear edge, and it's going to give him a finish here. And if you go towards the odds, Bontorin plus 190, Kape definitely the favorite at minus 240, to the point where I'm even going to give him, push that in a parlay for sure. Kape minus 240, great parlay attempt addition there. Go with Kape. That's where I'm going. The decision, I mean, the over-under on this one, 2.5 rounds. The over plus 110, the under minus 140. You know, it's rare to say this at flyweight, but I would actually say the better bet here would probably be that minus 140 at under 2.5. But if you think that, hey, you know, it's a flyweight bout, these two are good enough and tough enough to last the entire 3 rounds, not opposed to doing the plus 110 at over 2.5. Because like I said, Bontorin is large. He will probably get some clinch work in there. So I'm thinking, you know, it's still reasonable to go with the over 2.5. But the safer bet, I would say, is Kape getting a finish here, and the under 2.5 is probably the safer way to go. But we'll see. I mean, it's a toss-up on that one, on just the over-under. The fight itself, not really a toss-up at all. After that, Oh my God. Still before the title fights, but huge rematch here. A rematch of seriously one of the best women's MMA fights of all time. Actually, really one of the best MMA fights of all time, regardless of men or women. I mean, just unbelievable. Unbelievable. And that was actually Joanna's last fight, too, which is very important in this case. Of course, Weili, we know, yes, she's lost the last two. She lost to Rose twice in a row. And before that, it was actually the Joanna fight. So really what we have to look at for Weili here is that she was more active and she did look very good against Rose in their last matchup. Obviously got caught with the kick in the first matchup to get knocked out like that. But the second matchup, very good. That's classic Weili stuff. Incredible on the feet, even stumbled Rose a couple of times. Great grappling. But of course, Rose is really just that good. She's just that good. She's a longer fighter and she's just incredible on the ground. So, you know, it's just a different kind of fighter. Whereas Joanna is actually a similar style to Weili, but just hasn't done as well. And that is why I think the clear way to go here is Weili, not just because she won their last matchup, the 5-round title fight, which would be Zhang won, or Weili won in a split decision there. I think she definitely won by decision there. I don't think it needed to be a split. I think she clearly won it. Obviously, I rewatched it and still holds up as one of the best fights I've ever seen. Definitely the best women's fight I've ever seen. Anyway, so why am I going with Weili here? I mean, in a 5-round fight, I think we'd probably see a pretty similar fight play out to last time, which would be Weili dominating early because she's just relentless, just absolutely relentless with her offense. And then maybe, you know, Joanna would win a round or two in there because she's just that good, because she's Joanna. But the difference is this time it's 3 rounds, and that really shifts it over to the slightly younger, but also way more powerful, way more active fighter in Weili. She's got the huge advantage because of that, because she'll get ahead early in the first and the second, probably maybe even the 3rd round, get ahead early with her offense. And Joanna is going to have a really hard time catching up. I mean, if there's anybody that can do it, it's Joanna. But I mean, Weili is just absolutely relentless, incredible grappler, incredible striker. And that's actually what we saw the first time they fought too. I mean, Weili, like I said, was using her striking and her grappling to win that fight. And I wouldn't say dominate the fight. I definitely wouldn't say that. But doing enough where it was like, okay, she's clearly winning. And also, I mean, she made Joanna literally look like an alien by the end of the fight. I mean, her head was just basically, it ballooned up. It was seriously insane to see. And it actually kind of makes you cringe when you look at it after the fight. I mean, it was truly insane to watch. So, and I mean, that was all because of Weili's power and her striking. So I think we're clearly going to be seeing a decision here, because we all know that Joanna is tough enough, and we all know that Weili is tough enough. So I think we're seeing another decision here for sure. But I would say you're going to be seeing a decisive decision victory for Weili this time, instead of like, okay, she won, but it was close. This time, I think we're going to see it's like, okay, she definitely won this one. That's what I think. And if you go towards the odds do favor that a little bit. You know, you've got minus 175 for Weili and plus 140 for Joanna there. Joanna. I don't know. Is it Joanna or Joanna? I think it's Joanna. But anyway. Yeah. So, I mean, clear way to go. Weili with the favorite Weili with this one. And the over-under obviously is heavily favoring the over 2.5, minus 286. Just throw that in a parlay too. Why don't you? I mean, seriously, minus 286, throw it in a parlay. Just do it. Yeah, that's it for that one. Then we've got the first title fight of the night, and that would be Shevchenko and Taila Santos. And this one is very, very intriguing. This is not your regular Valentina title defense you've got here. This is not one, at least in my opinion, and in the opinion of most people who watch a lot of MMA, this is not one that she's just going to steamroll through right away. At least that's not what it looks like based on what we've seen from Taila Santos. In fact, a lot of people are actually saying that Santos is going to win this. And it's, to me, I think it's I don't think Santos is going to win this. Don't get me wrong here. I'm not crazy enough to say that, but I will say this does seem like Valentina's toughest challenge since fighting Amanda Nunes. And I think that's very clear because I do think that Santos probably is going to win a round here and there. She might even win 2 rounds because I believe it was Maya. Maya was the one just a couple fights ago, I believe. Where are we here? I wrote it down. Oh yeah. Valentina was controlled on the ground just for a little bit by Jennifer Maia. And because Taila is bigger, she's bigger than Maia, and she is huge for the division, which is really going to be a problem for Valentina. I do think that Taila is going to get some clinches going. She's probably going to end up on top on the ground at some point. So I do think that she's probably going to win a round, maybe 2 based on the control. But because of the ridiculous skill of Valentina, you'd have to imagine that she's still going to edge ahead in a decision on this. Oh, actually, no, by finish on this one again. And I'll say why it's a finish here. Because I think she's going to compete early, but Santos gets tired. She's so big that she does get tired, especially later in the fight, especially when you're talking about somebody on the other side who doesn't get tired at all. So you're going to see Valentina come in, whether that's the 3rd round or the 4th round or something like that, and she's probably going to end up getting a submission in my mind. I don't think she's going to get a KO, but I do think, or maybe she's going to get a ground and pound KO. I don't know. But I do think that she's going to get a win on the ground there. That's what I see happening. But like I said, this fight is a lot closer than people are giving it credit for. And of course, yes, of course, the odds are one-sided. You've got Shevchenko at minus 600 right now, but you got to remember, what was Shevchenko at before in all of these other fights? I mean, against Murphy, I think she was probably like minus 1,200, I think she was at. And before that, against Maia, it was probably minus 700, 800. So, I mean, you know, these odds are just obscene when you get to Shevchenko. So, minus 600, I mean, is that fair? Maybe. I would say I'd probably bring it down more, though, to be fair. For me, anyway, I would probably put it at minus 300 because I do think it's close enough. It's close enough that Santos can threaten at least to win by a decision somehow with her size. But yeah, so that's what we're seeing here. Obviously, I'm going with Valentina. There's no doubt. I mean, I'm clearly going with that. The over-under is a little more interesting. Over-under at 3.5. That's what it's at right now. Minus 167 for over 3.5. And I would say that is very clearly the way to go for me, at least, because again, Santos is huge. I don't know if Valentina can actually finish her, but I do think, like I said, she's going to win by decision at the very least. So I would say the way to go with this is the over. It's definitely the safer bet here. Minus 167, by the way, at flyweight women. That's a steal. That is a steal at minus 167. So I would definitely go with the over 3.5 at minus 167 here. And if you're interested, the under is at plus 130. So it is, you know, can she get a finish in the 4th round? Of course. But, you know, safer bet here, minus 167 for sure. Then we close it out. We close out the night with Glover Teixeira, the light heavyweight title. Of course, I should point that out. And my God, one of the most exciting prospects in the entire UFC, by far the most exciting at light heavyweight, in his third UFC fight, only his third UFC fight, already in a title fight, and already, by the way, the favorite, Jiří Procházka. I am so excited to see this guy again. I mean, actually, I don't remember his first fight. I'm not even sure if I actually saw that at the time. I mean, I remember it now because I just watched it yesterday. But but my God, that KO against Reyes, nominated for KO of the year last year, just demolished him. And ever since, I'm like, oh my God, is this guy good? He's exciting. He gets wild KOs, and he's just entertaining as a person. He's so unique as a person too, that you gotta be a fan of him. And of course, you gotta be a fan of Glover too. He's a nice guy, but Jiří, I mean, good God. Okay, but I will say this is very, very close, and they both very much have a chance to win in a very specific way. Jiří, of course, massive, by the way, massive for 205. He probably weighs in on fight day, probably at like 220 or more. He's that big. Like, he is a massive, massive guy. Incredible striker. Seriously, one of the best light heavyweight strikers I've ever seen. Just absolutely incredible. First round finishes all over the place. But he was taken down fairly easy by Reyes, and that is a little bit of the problem in here. He was taken down by Reyes. He's very quick, so he is hard to get, and he's hard to take down. But when he gets down there, it's probably gonna be a slight problem, and that's the problem. He gets hit a lot, but doesn't really react at all. He did stumble once. And he got stumbled once by Reyes, but he actually got stumbled a few times by Özdemir, but clearly none of it really did anything. And I don't think that Glover is going to contest him on the feet at all. Clearly the avenue for Teixeira to win this is getting it to the ground, obviously, which is exactly what he did to Jan too. But Jiří is good when he's on top, and he does have pretty good submission defense, which will, I think, very clearly come into play here. Glover, amazing wrestler, but he is very slow. He's slow, but he goes down for the takedown right away. Incredible on top. He did stumble Jan. He did stumble him. He stumbled multiple times. But on the other side of it, though, he was stumbled multiple times by Thiago Santos. And that was just a couple of fights ago, because he gets hit a lot. And when you've got somebody, and by the way, this is where it switched for me. This is why I have Jiří. My God, my throat's dying. My throat's shredded. My throat is done right now. But anyway, that is why I've flipped. Well, not flipped. That's why I'm leaning towards Procházka on this, because Glover gets hit a lot, and he's very slow. Because Jiří is an unusual striker, he comes in at bizarre angles. He's always done this. He comes in at strange angles, and he hits hard. He gets first round finishes all the time. Most of his finishes come in the first round. So when you've got a unique striker like that, and he's very fast, way faster than Glover, I think that is what's going to be the problem. Glover is probably going to get in a clinch at some point and maybe get a takedown probably at some point. But I would imagine that Jiří is just going to keep picking him apart on the feet. And eventually he's going to land something big, and that's going to be it. That's going to be it. That's going to be the finish. And we'll be seeing a brand new light heavyweight champion. And to me, this will start something new. It'll be out with, I don't want to say the older generation, but that kind of generation of light heavyweight fighter. And that'll open it up for people like, we saw Jailton Almeida. We've seen Jamal Hill go up the rankings recently. You've got Anthony Smith all the time. And of course, now you've got Yuri. And there's a couple of other people at light heavyweight that are slowly making their way up too. Because it wasn't a good division. Ever since John Jones has left, I mean, this division is dead. But now that you've got these people coming up, you've got a whole new rebirth of the division. And hopefully we'll be talking about this next week after Yuri hopefully takes the win. But yeah, that's what I think is starting to happen here. You're starting to see that new generation of light heavyweight fighter slowly take over and make it the exciting division that it should be. Because the size of these guys, you'd think this would actually be the most exciting division. To me, that's what I would think, but it's not right now. It's clearly the worst men's division by far, by a fucking mile. It's not even close. And middleweight is not great either. But anyway, at least middleweight has some characters on it. Anyway, so that's it for the title fight. That's what I'm seeing here. Yuri, that's where I'm going with it. But before we move on, before we close out the night, before we close out with talking about some parlays, I've got a couple of prelims that I will quickly talk about before we go. The first one, Jake Matthews making his, returning against Andre Fialho once again. What's this? Is like, I think it's either his third or his fourth fight of the year. Just insane. And I mean, he is so good. Just insanely good. And I'm looking at the odds now, and my mind is blown that the odds are this close. To me, this is not even remotely a close matchup. Jake Matthews is a little slow. He lost to Brady, even though he was actually bigger than Brady. He got controlled on the ground. He was easy to take down. Honestly, wasn't even really all that active, even against Diego Sanchez, who is old. While Fialho, I mean, good God. Like, if you've seen if you've been paying attention at all the past few months, you'd know how insanely good Fialho is. He's super crisp, very tight with his striking, very, very strong. And you know what? Baeza looked great, and Fialho was actually smaller, and he had less reach, and he still took Baeza's best shots, and he ended up dismantling him by the end. So to me, this is absolutely no fucking comparison. Fialho is going to run straight through Matthews. That's what I think. Easy finish for me. That's what I think. First round, maybe second round if Matthews can last it. But I'm saying an easy finish for Fialho. And it blows my mind that the odds are this close. Fialho is minus 145 right now. To me, I really thought he was going to end up being minus 300, minus 400 here. He's so good. And Jake Matthews hasn't even been doing anything recently. So to me, it's mind-blowing. It really is mind-blowing that it's this close. So easy choice for Fialho. And honestly, I would actually even put Fialho in a parlay here. That's how confident I am at minus 145. Throw him in a parlay. Throw him in whatever parlay you've got, because I am so confident on this. I mean, Fialho is going to make you some big bucks this week. I'm saying it right now. The over-under on this, over-under 2.5 rounds, which is also bananas considering all the finishes here. Over 2.5 is plus 108. Under 2.5, minus 137. I'm going minus 137 all day long, cashing in on that, hopefully. And that is the first prelim that I wanted to talk about. I'm most excited about that one in terms of the sheer profits of that matchup, I think. I'll cut it short this time. So I'll only talk about one more fight. And since we're in Singapore, finally, I mean, we don't usually see too many Asian fighters, which sucks because there's so many good ones. But this time we'll see a veteran Kyung Ho Kang from Korea, and Dana Batgeti from, I stumbled there because I honestly don't remember where he's from and I didn't write it down. Shit. I can't remember. But anyway, looking really good wherever he's from. Anyway, I can't remember. It wasn't Mongolia, was it? No. Moldova, possibly? I can't remember. But anyway, this is a great matchup. It really is. They've both got great striking. Big power. Oh, from Dana, though. I'm going with Batgeti on this one, and it's very, very close. It really is close. Dana, big power, great striking, really good striking here. Good takedown defense against a great grappler in Ronnie Yaya. That was in his last one, but was controlled when he was taken down, though. And he had some great grappling going by himself before that. But the real story is his striking here. As for Kang, he's very fast. Oh, actually, that was me talking about Kyung Ho Kang. I didn't write names in this, so I was going based on what I thought. Okay, replace everything I just said with Kyung Ho Kang. And then on the other side, you've got Batgeti. He is very fast, very, very fast. He is very big for the division, but so is Kang, so I don't think that'll make too much of a difference. He's got huge power, relentless pressure, and the only reason he lost against Gutierrez is because Gutierrez moves so much, and then he got hit by a ridiculous spinning elbow out of nowhere that nobody could have seen coming. So that's really why he lost that one. Whereas Kyung Ho Kang doesn't move that much, really. So to me, because of that extra movement, because of the style, because of the striking, because of the power, I'm going with Dana or Batgeti Dana on this, or Dana Batgeti. I forget which way you're supposed to say it. But anyway, I'm going with Batgeti on this one. By decision. I'm not really sure if there's going to be a finish here. If there is, I could see Dana getting it, but I'm going with the decision on this one. And if you go for the odds, we've got, where are we here? Where is he? Can't find him. There it is. Plus 114 for Kyung Ho Kang and minus 140 for Dana Batgeti. And you know what? It deserves to be that close. And I would definitely lean towards the Batgeti. So minus 140 is very, very good for that. That's where I'm going with this one. And the over-under is at 2.5 rounds. The over minus 128. And again, you got to remember, too, that we're also talking about, I believe they're bantamweights. They could be flyweights, though, too. I honestly can't remember, and I didn't write it down. But they are the lighter guys. So, you know, a decision, very, very common. Plus, they're very evenly matched. So I'm saying minus 128 for over 2.5. You know, go for it. It's a good betting line for us here. But yeah, that's it. That is it. Oh yeah, of course. We will quickly talk about parlays before we go. There's not too many, I would say, this time, because there's a lot of really, really close fights here. I'm going with Fialio. Fialio is an obvious choice. Again, I can't believe he's at minus 145. Sungwoo Choi is also a good choice. He's at minus 240 right now. He's going against Kulabao. I think Sungwoo Choi is a great choice here. So that's a two-way. Brendan Allen, I'm not a huge fan of in this matchup. So I'm not going with Brendan Allen keep him way out of the parlay for sure. And then Manel Kopp, that's the third one in the parlay. And you might even consider going with Wei Li in the parlay as well at minus 175. But I'm always hesitant to throw the women in the parlays because they're always so even, and there's so often something crazy happens in the women's fights and it flips just like that. So I tend to stay away from them in the parlays. But you know, Wei Li does have a considerable edge in this one, but not a considerable one, but still. You know what? Maybe stay away from it. I take that back. Stay away from that one. But anyway, and then Prochazka, stay away from that. because Teixeira has a clear chance at getting a submission or even controlling the fight to win by decision. So I think definitely stay away from that. I mean, Prochazka is a clear choice, clearly the favorite, but I mean, Teixeira does have a very clear way of winning himself. So you never like that in a parlay. You never want that to happen. So I'm going with Kopp, Choi, Fialho, and was that it? Was that it? Yeah, that was it. No, I feel like there was somebody else. No, maybe not. No, Fialho, Choi, Kopp. Yeah, that's it. That's it. That's all I can think of. And then of course, yeah, you know what? The over/under. I mean, over for sure on Weili and Joanna. That's another one to throw in. That's a -286. So yeah. But anyway, that is enough for us today. Hour 45. It was a long one. I can't wait to see what happens in this pay-per-view. By the way, actually, if you're interested, I won't be writing about it or anything, but just a thing that you can watch, actually, there's 4 episodes, and they're actually going to be doing more episodes of these later. But these 4 episodes, it's called Road to the UFC. There's 4 episodes this week. They're doing them overnight. They're airing them, so you might want to watch it on Fight Pass. But it's got 2 cards tomorrow, 2 cards the day after in Singapore, in the stadium, same stadium, all of that on Fight Pass by the UFC. And a lot of they're mainly focusing on the next up and coming Asian talent. That includes people from India, Korea, Thailand, and China and Japan, I believe. I don't think I saw too many outside of that. But yeah, and those are people from the Contender Series, from the a couple people who have fought in the UFC in the past, and also just a lot of very, very talented regional people. So if you're looking for something to watch either Thursday night or Friday, Thursday or Friday, it's going to be on Fight Pass. I'll probably end up watching it. I'm entertained. What they've essentially done, and they've actually made a tournament out of it. So they've made a 4-division tournament here. They're making quarterfinals essentially. So they're going to have a quarterfinal fight for each division on each of the nights. They're only doing 4 or 5 fights in the night. So it's kind of like a Contender Series kind of thing. And then one person will get a guaranteed contract every night, I believe. I think that's kind of how they're doing it. And then, like I said, the other 4 fights on each card would be the this tournament that they're going on. And I believe it's only in the men's division, I believe, and it's lightweight, bantamweight, featherweight, and flyweight. So the 4 lightest weight categories in the UFC they're doing. So yeah, I'm really excited to see what's going to happen. I mean, you don't normally see too many fighters from that location, probably because it's a lot farther for them to go, because they'd have to full on move here. Because, we've seen Sumu Darji, Alatang Haley, people like that, do really well in the UFC, but they don't necessarily get to appear that often because they usually have to wait for cards that are, in Europe or over there somewhere. So yeah, it'll be nice to hopefully see more Asian talent here, especially as it grows as a sport in Asia in general. I think that'll be really cool. So I'm really excited to see where this is going to go. And I mean, a tournament, you gotta love a good tournament. So I'm excited to see how that plays out as well. And then, of course, you've got season 30 of The Ultimate Fighter, on again next week, episode 7 next week, with the heavyweights back again. And then, of course, oh my God, we're going back to, I believe it's Dallas this time. No, wait, or is it Austin? I think it's actually Austin this time, Austin, Texas. So we're back to Texas, whatever it is. And that's next week. I mean, So much exciting stuff here. Anyway, that is it for me. If you want to see any of the other sports, Area 51 has got you covered. My hat's been slightly crooked this entire time, I'm just noticing. If you want to see anything else that I have, plus all my bonuses, they're all below. That would be on Instagram and Twitter. That's where I do my bonuses all the time. I also talk a little bit, I tweet a little bit, usually silly jokes or dumb other things, or just comments on the fights and stuff like that. That's all on Twitter. But yeah, that's it for me. I can't wait. My God, what a show. But anyway, I will see you next time. See you after this pay-per-view. Thanks for watching. See you next time.